President nomination.
Call the EDA meeting to order. I get an approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion carried. Need an approval for the December 23rd, 2024 board minutes.
I'll approve the board minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Financial reports, EDA program funds report, and outstanding loans report.
Nothing interesting to report. Everybody's been paid until they're supposed to, so.
Move on to board elections. Positions to be elected. Do you want to go one by one or read them all off and then elect them, or?
However you want, there are 3 of the years. I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. President presides at all meetings of the board. Vice president presides at any meeting of the board in the absence of the president, and may exercise all powers and perform all responsibilities of the president if the president cannot exercise or perform the same due to absence or other inability. And then we have secretary keeps or cause to be kept minutes of all meetings of the board and shall maintain or cause to be maintained all records of the EDA. Does not need be held by a board member. And did we have you as the secretary before? Okay.
I would suggest that continue.
Yeah.
That's a very good job. Yeah.
Who was in each spot before?
I think it was you and Andy. You just follow what you do for city council.
Oh, okay.
I did receive a text from Andy because he's absent tonight. Don't be mean to him.
Can he be elected if he's not here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, can we do it all in one motion?
So, yeah, I would say if you do a motion for all 3 of the roles, do you want yourself and then him, then me as secretary?
If there's no further discussion about it. So we'd have myself as the president, Andy Gapp as vice president, and Celia as secretary.
Or do you want to put somebody else in there?
It does not matter to me.
Just who the signatures are, really.
When you guys want to do it, sure can.
Well, the council's still the full EDA board anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's any.
No, essentially it's just somebody will take the meeting over and on.
I'll just leave it.
Okay. If I can get a motion for that then?
I'll make a motion to approve those positions.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Old business, small cities development program income reuse plan.
You don't need to read this one. There's quite a lot of words in there. So we looked at this back in December. We have about 56,000 remaining in program income from our 2015 Small Cities Development Program cycle. The majority of that fund came from the housing rehab program. A small portion came from repayments of loans to commercial rehab. So last month I brought it to the board to look at what to do with those funds, whether we wanted to go after a new program, or go after a new application, administer the program with city internal staff, or go after administration with an outside organization. I had some conversations, looked into more information about the contractor requirements, and my recommendation right now would be to say that we go forward with finding local projects to utilize the program income using city staff time. That way, we don't have to spend additional funding on an outside organization. And some of the headaches that are associated with this program, we don't have to deal with a new application. So.
Do you need a motion on that, or?
Yes, so I'm going to have to send a letter to the state that says that's what we're going to do, or use our program income for. So I want a motion, and then I'll have you sign a letter.
Did we find any more, particulars within this? I'm assuming this is the same one we talked about.
Yep, this is what we talked about.
A cut sheet of some of those things that we need to perform so we can use it.
So we don't get hung up
Right,
on things.
right.
absolutely. Yeah, that would be my role. And additionally, we put together a new list of contractors to solicit for that information. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the small city development program.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Wetland County Housing Study, Medelia contribution.
So I've been working with the St. James EDA in the county to secure funds to do a countywide housing study with specific chapters to highlight Medelia and St. James. The reason that I was proposing this is that we've had a number of developers come in and ask if we have a housing study to reference. Here in Medelia, the last one we did was in 2005. St. James actually does theirs every 10 years. They were set to do their next one in 2026. A traditional city housing study is in the range of 15K to 20K. A countywide one is about 25K to 35K. And so St. James has already allocated 10,000. They'll either go forward with their own city housing study in 2026 or put this forward to a housing study for the county. The county will review this request in February, March, when Brianna brings it to the county board. So I'd like to say that we have approved 10,000 from Fund 52 for housing study to be conducted this fall. You guys have already kind of approved it, but I want to have it as a motion. So that's where we're going to get the money from.
And that's still the balance that's on that sheets in the packet, that's what we have in there.
Yeah, and so that's an estimate as you know, based on what I can get until audits are done and things like that, but we've still got about 166,000 in there, so.
I make a motion that we put the 10,000 from Fund 52.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Ottawa County Housing Rehabilitation Program update. Kind of went with that, or is that a different?
It's similar but not the same project. So on January 21st, I went to the county commissioner meeting. At that meeting, they approved the cooperative agreement with the St. James EDA to administer the Watonwan County Housing Rehab Program. I have the details there. It's a forgivable loan. Max amount is $10,000. Interest rate is 0%. And 10% would be forgiven annually over 10 years. And it's open to all homeowners in Watonwan County as long as they're owner occupied. So they're going to launch the program in March. I just want to say it here so people can be aware and go in articles and such. It's going to go kind of fast. It's about 180,000 in there, I think, so.
Is that kind of like our Fund 46 then?
Yes, yep. We structured it, that 10% forgiven annually is based on some of the feedback we've seen of ours is forgiven at a big chunk at the end. And so that goes back on people's taxes and it shows they got a big amount of money at one time and can kind of make them have to pay it more. So if you do the 10% forgiven annually, it's not quite a burden to them.
How are we getting this information out to the community?
Yes, so that would be my role and then Brianna's role. Since Brianna represents that side of Watonwan County, she's really focused on those communities as well as St. James specifically. Over here, I've offered to promote locally within Medelia, obviously my role, and then also to Louisville and LaSalle on behalf of Mark. But for marketing, we're talking about Facebook, website, direct mailing, we do our billing statement, we do a city newsletter, so it'll be included in that city newsletter. You're welcome to direct people to talk to me. I have a waiting list in which I let people know that that patient window is open. So if you know somebody, let me know and I can get them on that list.
Was there a cap on that? I can't remember.
How much money they can get?
No, like for income cap and all that, or no?
Yes, it's 115% of area median income. That number, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's higher than normal. A lot of times it's 80% of area median income, so like 77,000 is a good benchmark.
Okay.
And then Empowering Small Minnesota Communities application update.
This is another no board action needed. In the fall, I applied for this program where you'd receive technical assistance to develop some sort of plan. What I proposed was a Latona Park riverfront redevelopment plan. Basically, this would look into research on flood-resistant landscaping, erosion control, sustainable infrastructure strategies, making sure that the land along the river there is both a recreational asset, but also can help us with some of our flooding that we see on a semi-regular basis. So we are semi-finalists. The team over at the University of Minnesota is looking to see what resources can match with us. If they don't find a professor that's interested in this project, we won't move forward, but if we do, then we will have that technical assistance. That'll start in May, June of this year. So I've kind of talked to them about that lower southern portion of the park, as well as you cross the bridge, the area that's city owned as well. That's kind of land, but not used much.
New business, multifamily housing units, construction incentives.
So this goes back to kind of that housing study people coming to with interest in building locally. We've had a number of developers, private builders interested in doing multifamily housing construction, whether that be senior living or market rate or affordable. And so one of the things I wanted to come back to the board and see is what interest we have in getting involved with some of the financing tools for this. And so I've provided 3 different options here: low interest construction loans, very similar to when we get a business loan out, but this would be directed at multifamily housing. Loan guarantees, that is when we set aside a certain proportion of that loan, and then the bank can loan the funds out at a reduced interest rate. And then finally, tax abatement as well. I know we've had conversations about tax abatement, not really wanting to dive into that, but I will note that there's, I could give you a few examples of some people in Minnesota that have done tax abatement in the last several years.
That would just be the city portion of the tax, right?
Yep, there are some that do partnerships, like Faribault County, Blue Earth Wells did one. You can see Fairmont and Martin County are also listed on there. I know I talked to the county a little bit about their feeling on tax abatement, not commissioners, rather the county staff, and they're not in favor of it right now, but I think a housing study might be able to point them in that direction if needed. And when I first started, we did a tax abatement policy, but that was really aimed at our commercial industrial. That was one of the longer term tax abatements, looking at the increased tax revenue, versus a lot of these housing ones you can see are more 5-year range of short term.
Do you know what is the apartments in town, are they pretty full then right now? I mean,
Yes, the ones that have reached out to me are, most of the developers who are reaching out to me also own apartments in town and are saying that their units are full. And when we did the housing summit in December, the developers there mentioned that financing for new construction is very difficult right now. It used to be that you could give them a lot for a certain amount, or just a low interest construction loan, or just one thing, and that was enough, and it's not meeting that gap anymore. The costs for new construction are just that high. So, I've also, on this memo, I have the number of housing units constructed in Adelia. Most of that data up to 2019 is from the ACS, or American Community Survey 2023 5-year estimates, except for 2020 and on. I got that from our building permits. So you can kind of see in 2010 to 2019, we had very few, obviously following the housing crash. But even in the last several years, we've had a number come up, but yeah.
Remind me again, what's the difference between like tax abatement and the TIF? Yeah.
So tax abatement has less restrictions associated with it. TIF districts are just that increment above whatever the tax base was before. Really, the difference I've seen is that there's just different restrictions with it.
And there was a kind of a high fee on the TIF, right?
Yeah, TIF was a bigger cost in regards to our financial advisors. That was more like $15,000 versus tax rate was more like $5,000.
I just don't see how we'd be able to do the first two, because where are you gonna get the money for it to make it done?
Sure.
I mean, when you're talking a multi-apartment complex, you're probably close to what, $2 million?
Depends, yeah, on the size of it, yeah. If we're doing a larger scale, those are also tend to be the most affordable because they can spread out the cost of the new construction across all of those units versus some of the smaller scale for fourplexes and such. You can't spread it out across that.
Because this wouldn't be, I mean, would this be considered even like a duplex? Yeah?
You can decide with your
Yeah,
policy.
you can decide, but
Duplex is considered multifamily
we've had questions on a duplex and fourplex.
and up to the larger units like 24.
Yep.
So all scales.
I think it kind of narrows down our options. I guess I don't know what your guys' thoughts are.
And that would all come out of 146, you said?
The loan guarantees of low interest construction loans could come out of Fund 46. That would restrict it to that 80% area median income. We obviously don't have other funding mechanisms available though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe one project.
That tier 2 small, tier 2 something cities grant that is coming out I could go after that potentially for a low interest construction loan. And that would be up to 115% area median income. So if that's the direction the board wants, I could go after an application for that.
But that small cities development program comes with restrictions, so doesn't it?
Different program, but yes, they both have restrictions.
Is there any talk about, additional, this is a nationwide problem, is there any funding that's going to become available in the next number of months or year? Or?
So that tier 2 Minnesota cities, that should come out in early 2025. I'm guessing the application would close Q2. I'd like to go after an application for that, but I haven't gotten direction from the board on what the application should be. And I can bring you a project for this one going forward, but if you have a preference.
So during that meeting, during the meeting, you said that there were developers that wanted to, it's just that they didn't have financially be able to start something right now in the area. Is that what you?
For the tier 2 Minnesota cities one?
Yeah.
It comes with prevailing wage restrictions, and some developers aren't interested in that because that increases the cost. Anytime you get state funding, it generally goes back to prevailing wage. As soon as you get to about 200,000, prevailing wage will kick in.
There's no way, I know that they increase their pay for the employee, but there's no way getting around that for that.
What was their thoughts on the tax abatement?
A lot of them are interested in tax abatement. Yeah, that's why I bring it up.
Was this scale, I guess, or the examples brought up at the meeting? Like,
With the developers there. We didn't bring up these specific programmatic examples, but like I said, they brought up one financing tool might not be enough to make a project feasible.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd say it's similar to when you guys did the project on Main Street, the new development. You had a few different financing tools kick in to make that project.
So with this, they could use other things. So if we did, just myself, I'm leaning towards the tax abatement. I know it's not the best, but they could still utilize Fund 46
Tax abatement, so.
with tax abatement.
It would, yes, you could still do a loan or something. With tax abatement, we wouldn't give them money in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're just not going to get that money.
They could use both programs, they could use the tax abatement.
Yeah, because
as well as,
you're saying they're going to need more than one tool. Well, yeah, if you go with the loan, well, then you're still stuck at one tool. And even if you're with the loan guarantee, you're still with one tool. Whereas with tax payment, you could use that plus
yeah.
Fund 46 or a guarantee. Or whatever that grant or whatever thing is.
Yeah. Would you like me to come back to the board in February with a tax abatement policy for multifamily housing? That you can review and look at the structure?
Yeah, but, and hopefully then we have a fuller council.
Yeah. I know several of the developers are looking at getting started in early spring. So I'm gonna follow up with them and let them know that there's interest in both of these. Do we want to have a solid policy for all of them before we take requests? It's hard.
So does the tax abatement have, I mean, because depending on the project would depend on the years of the tax abatement too, right? You know, if you're putting up a duplex, 5 years would probably be enough, whereas you're putting up a 24-unit apartment, 10 years would probably be more logical.
Yeah, and we can scale that
We should
back.
be able to scale it and adjust that based on the cost or projected cost.
So we could just do like we're gonna do the tax abatement, but no set.
It'd be based on project requirements or something like that.
We'd have to probably set that ahead of time with the,
With our commercial and industrial tax abatement policy, we set it at the maximum, I think it's 15 years. But based on the conversation, the request, you would scale it back based on how much they actually need, right? It's like 15 years or this amount of money. And you can do a similar thing with multifamily housing.
Yeah, just so it wasn't, you know, you have a fair amount on your 100%
Yep.
for 10 years. Well, like I say, in a duplex, that's a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And my recommendation as well would be to do the increase of taxes, so you're still getting the tax base you would have gotten originally from that lot.
So when you're saying multiple developers are looking at different individual situations?
Yeah, like I said, duplex, fourplex, larger units.
Unless you guys want to make a decision tonight.
No, I think we should.
Okay.
wait for everybody else.
Have it put something together so we have something to review.
Okay.
Do you want something for the low interest construction loans as well? Something similar to like our business loan policy?
Might as well.
Okay.
Isn't that already said? That would come out of 46?
Yeah. That's probably the only, you could use 52 as well.
Are the
Rather scale.
parameters already set for, if we use that fund, or you're talking a completely different fund for low interest loans, construction loans?
For low interest construction loans, we do a different policy. Fund 46 came out of small cities development program funding, but you can use different programs or different activities within it. That funding is no longer considered program income, it's local income. It's a lot of definitions.
Okay. 2024 annual report.
I've included it in your packet. I'll just scan through it to see if there's any highlights. Right away, I've talked to some of you before, our area median income increased significantly since from 2018 to 2023, it was 43,165, and now it's 77,500. That's a pretty significant jump in that amount of time. I've also noted that there's been a 29.7% increase in the total market value of properties within the city since 2022. My main challenge I see with the businesses locally is workforce. I kind of highlighted in there, we have a pretty high percentage of our workers that are commuted in, and so working with those businesses to have workforce development strategies is a key priority. Just to highlight our business assistance, we made a loan last year for $60,000, and we also got the $99,000 through the USDA to increase our revolving loan fund pot for businesses. Helped me do the optometric, the entrepreneur roundtable. Going into housing, we have that home rehab program, which will open up in March. Have a home ownership expo to meet with residents, talk to them about the resources available locally. did a windshield survey looking at our housing stock, as well as the special assessments to demolition of two blighted homes in this last year. Ruby Heights, I just have a long page dedicated to that. We had one lot sale last year, and so working with area contractors and developers to continue to encourage development out there. Going to marketing, we launched a Facebook page, an EDA webpage, started a monthly city newsletter, and then building those regional connections. I've got listed there a number of the entities that I've worked with or met with at different events. And then quality of life, finalized that Safe Routes to School plan with the city and the school approval, and provided some grant writing assistance to Medelia schools. They got $40,000 for a Future Ready CT Impact grant, and then the Medelia Arts Collaborative got $25,000 through a Smith Small Town grant. I'll also note I worked with the Light Plan a lot on some of their grant applications. The funding has not been awarded yet, which is why it's not included here, but they're going after some pretty major grants. It'll be really great for the community. And then that final page is just our 2025 goals. The appendix includes that market value increase I was talking about, just so you know where my numbers came from.
Celia, on that first page, where's that data from?
The fund report, or
The front page, your median income rise from 18 to 23, and
yes, that would come from HUD numbers, which is, I believe is Census, American Community Survey data. And so they do 5-year estimates of those numbers. The most accurate ones are going to be when the census actually happens, 2020, 2010. But in the meantime, these are where the jumps are listed at. This is the number that dictates a lot of our 80% of area median income, 115% of area median income. So that's our benchmark a lot of times.
Any other discussion on any of that? Staff report?
Just a highlight of what I've done in the last month. DNR Outdoor Recreation Grant, we're still working on that. I also met with the Medelia Mobile Village. They are considering developing a revolving loan program to facilitate the placement of new manufactured homes within the park. North Country Cooperative Foundation is working with them to find funding partners. One thing they've talked to us about is seeing if we would be interested in being a funding partner. I know Chris and I have talked a little bit about it, and I had a conversation, I think, with Andy as well, what partnership opportunities we need to do, so I'm going to continue to have those conversations with them. So if you have any feedback or questions, I'm happy to talk about that. Today we met with Medelia Elementary and St. Mary's to discuss challenges and opportunities over at her arrival and dismissal time as well as to Safe Routes to School. And additionally, I'm working on a succession planning business workshop with Lake Crystal EDA that'll happen in April of this year.
Has the Mobile Village looked into grants or monies available that you to get rid of some of the
Yes.
patterns up there?
Right now they have a grant to do, it's not bad, they have a grant to get rid of their trees, their Emerald Ash Borer trees. North Country Cooperative Foundation is really their big partner when they go after grant opportunities. I think it's on their list. It's part of the problem is title work, who actually owns those properties before they can demo something like that. They're looking at, they have, I believe, 14 lots available that could have a home placed on them, so, based on their map and where things are located. So.
Could they use one of our EDA funds or programs to do that grant thing or whatever?
So my recommendation would be Fund 46 or something like that, since that is that low income housing related work. We've got $267,000 listed in that pot. So
what's the cap on that?
Cap on what,
How much?
146 was the max per event, individual, business, item.
depends on the program, right? So we had a down payment assistance program that's closed, so there's nothing there. And I've also listed in development a housing rehab program. I haven't brought that policy to you guys yet, so I don't have anything set up for it. So if we were to go after something with the mobile village or revolving loan program, their vision is to basically have an entity purchase those mobile home, place it on a lot, and then have the person who bought it pay back as time goes on.
So that'd be under the loan payment or the housing rehabilitation? Under-
It could be a separate program
Oh.
under that fund.
Yeah, it would be a separate program, but the funds would come out of 46, but you
Oh,
guys
gotcha.
create it.
You're gonna make.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Most of the rest of them are very, like, this is your program you have. A lot of them, that's because the state or feds require us to report them. in
So,
such a-
so in loan 46, there's no max, there's no cap, what can be.
There's no
borrowed.
program currently.
There's no
associated.
There's no program in there at all.
That's why we've been, because
Right.
nobody is taking, well, we did have the program of
The down payment assistance.
the down payment assistance, but the down payment assistance criteria, puts people at such a high interest rate because their income is so adjusted now. Those things haven't changed for years, and so nobody's taken that as an opportunity anymore.
Well, I brought a different revised program, but because it's the 80% area median income cap, people weren't utilizing it, they didn't need it. And there's lots of down payment assistance programs at the banks, so they don't need another one from the city. So, yeah, there's 8 loans still left from that program. So yeah, I asked that the board close that program as we started looking at new programs now, so that's why there's nothing there right now. And I've held off on development of a housing rehab program, just because I know we were looking at this housing study and seeing where our priorities are.
Public comment? Okay. Any other discussion or anything? Motion to close?
Make a motion.
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.